Dad perfect revents. You know what silence sounds like in a custom furniture workshop after closing time? It's not really silence at all. If you listen close enough, you can hear the whispers of sawdust settling, the creak of wood aging, the soft tick of handmade clocks that haven't missed a beat in decades. I've spent 40 years learning to hear those sounds in my workshop basement, where the real work happens. My name is Victor Pierce. I'm 66 years old, and most folks around Charleston know me as the guy who makes furniture the old way, with my hands and a hell of a lot of patience. But that's not the whole story. The whole story is about how I spent 3 years watching my own son plot my death, documenting every lie, and hiding the evidence in the very furniture he was planning to inherit. The call came at 11:47 on a Tuesday night in September. I was in bed, but not sleeping. These days, sleep doesn't come easy when you know your own flesh and blood is counting down the days until you're gone. Dad, we need to talk. Nathan's voice on the phone sounded different, strained, like a man who'd been caught doing something he shouldn't. It's nearly midnight, son. Everything all right? I've been thinking about the workshop, about your retirement plans. There it was, the conversation I'd been dreading for 3 years. My 32-year-old son, Nathan Pierce, calling me after midnight to discuss my death like it was a business transaction he was tired of waiting for. See, I'd been documenting everything since 2021. Every suspicious phone call, every probing question about my health, every time Nathan brought his girlfriend Caroline around, and she'd eye my workshop like she was appraising estate sale items. I'd filled 300 pages in a notebook, hidden audio recordings and furniture pieces I'd crafted with my own hands, and built a case that would make any lawyer proud. But let me back up. You need to understand how we got here. I lost my wife Linda 12 years ago. Cancer took her when Nathan was just 20, home from college for spring break. From that day forward, it was just the two of us in the house above the workshop on King Street. I thought I'd raised him right. Susan always said Nathan had good hands, a good heart. Maybe she was right about the hands. He could work wood almost as well as me when he put his mind to it. But somewhere along the way, that heart went cold. Nathan graduated from College of Charleston with a degree in information technology, got himself a good job as an IT consultant, made decent money helping businesses with their computer systems, married a sweet girl named Margaret, a physical therapist who worked with kids at the Children's Hospital. For a while there, everything seemed normal. Sunday dinners, holiday visits, the kind of life Linda would have wanted for our son. Then Caroline showed up. Caroline Matthews, 27 years old, marketing executive with ambitions bigger than her paycheck. She had this way of looking at my workshop that made my skin crawl. Not like someone who appreciated craftsmanship, but like someone calculating square footage and property values. It started small, like it always does. Nathan began asking different kinds of questions during our Sunday visits. Dad, when's the last time you had a full physical? You're getting up there in age, you know. Or, have you thought about what happens to all this when you're gone? The first real warning came in August 2021. Nathan stopped by the workshop on a Wednesday afternoon while I was finishing a dining table for the Hendersons. Solid oak, hand-carved legs, the kind of piece that'll outlive us all. Dad, I've been looking at some numbers, he said, running his hand along the table's surface. Property values on King Street have gone crazy. This workshop, the house upstairs, you're sitting on close to $700,000 in real estate alone. I kept sanding, didn't look up. So, you could sell, move somewhere smaller, invest the difference, live comfortably without having to work with your hands every day. Your arthritis has been bothering you more lately. My arthritis was fine, had been fine for years. But Nathan was building a narrative, painting me as older and more fragile than I was. I'd heard enough divorce cases down at the courthouse to recognize the tactic. That night, I started the notebook. Small black journal, kept it locked in my desk drawer behind some old receipts. Started documenting every conversation, every question about my health, every time Nathan steered the discussion toward money. By November 2021, the pattern was clear. Nathan wasn't just making conversation, he was conducting research. He'd bring Caroline around more often, always finding reasons to walk through the workshop, asking about the value of my tools, my inventory, the custom pieces I'd accumulated over 4 decades. Caroline was smooth about it. Mr. Pierce, this craftsmanship is incredible. Pieces like this must be worth a fortune. Always compliments wrapped around, appraisals, always questions that sounded innocent until you heard them repeated week after week. The first real proof came in January 2023. I was upstairs in the house when I heard voices in the workshop. Nathan and Caroline had let themselves in through the back door, something they'd never done before. I crept down the stairs, stayed in the shadows, and listened. How much longer do we have to wait? That was Caroline's voice, impatient. He's 66, has high blood pressure. Things happen to men his age. Nathan's voice cold as winter steel. Heart attacks, strokes. All that dust and chemical fumes down here can't be good for his lungs. The property alone is worth close to $700,000, plus his tools, inventory, retirement accounts. We could sell everything, move to Seattle, start that consulting firm we talked about. Once he's gone, we can do whatever we want. Margaret will sign the divorce papers. She's got her own career, won't fight for alimony. Dad's been clear that everything goes to me. I stood there in the dark, listening to my son discuss my death like a business opportunity. That's when I decided documentation wasn't enough. I needed evidence that would hold up in court. Over the next 6 months, I got creative. See, when you've spent 40 years building custom furniture, you learn how to hide things, secret compartments, false bottoms, hollow legs, tricks of the trade that most people never think about. I started with a jewelry box I had made for Linda years ago. Solid cherry with a hidden compartment triggered by pressing 2 corners simultaneously. Susan had kept her wedding ring in there after the cancer made her fingers too swollen to wear it. Now, it held copies of Nathan's financial records that Caroline had been encouraging him to request. Bank statements, insurance policies, even a printout of property tax assessments. All the research they'd been doing on their inheritance. Next was a dining chair from a set I'd crafted in the 80s. The front. Right leg was hollow. Original design for running electrical cords, but perfect for hiding audio recordings. I'd installed a small digital recorder during one of their visits, caught them discussing timeline estimates for when I'd naturally pass away. The grandfather clock in my living room became my main vault. I'd built it myself in 1995, solid walnut with a hidden panel behind the pendulum. Inside went the photographs I'd taken of Nathan and Caroline casing the workshop when they thought I wasn't home, plus printouts of Caroline's internet searches on estate law and inheritance taxes. But the centerpiece was the dining table, where we'd shared so many family meals. I'd crafted it from a single piece of reclaimed heart pine, with a secret drawer accessible only by removing the center leaf and pressing a hidden catch. Inside that drawer went the crown jewel of my evidence, a recording device I'd hidden in the table's centerpiece during Thanksgiving dinner 2023. The recording was crystal clear, Nathan and Caroline discussing my death over dessert like they were planning a vacation. Once Dad's gone, we sell everything and get out of Charleston, Nathan had said, cutting into Susan's apple pie recipe like it was just another Tuesday. How long realistically? Caroline asked. He's 66 now. Heavy lifting, chemical exposure, stress of running a business solo. I give it 2 years, maybe 3 if he's stubborn. They'd laughed about it. Actually laughed about my death timeline while eating pie at the table I'd built with my own hands. By fall 2023, I had everything I needed. 3 years of documentation, audio recordings, photographs, and a paper trail that painted a clear picture of conspiracy. I met with Benjamin Crawford, my attorney, showed him everything. Victor, Benjamin said, what you're describing could constitute elder abuse, conspiracy to commit fraud, possibly more. But you need to be careful how you proceed. Nathan is your son. This will destroy your family. My family was destroyed the day my son started wishing for my death. Benjamin helped me restructure my will, added conditions that would prevent Nathan from inheriting if he couldn't demonstrate good character and respect for family values. We also set up a trust that would provide for Margaret independently, since she'd been nothing but kind to me throughout the marriage. The new inheritance breakdown was realistic but substantial. $700,000 property value, $400,000 in retirement accounts, $350,000 in business assets and inventory, plus $250,000 in life insurance. Total of $1.7 million. Enough to matter, but not so much that it seemed impossible for a successful craftsman. Winter turned to spring, spring to summer, and still Nathan kept playing his game. More questions about my health, more conversations about planning for the future, more visits with Caroline where they'd measure my workshop with their eyes like vultures circling a dying animal. The breaking point came in August 2024 when I overheard Nathan on the phone with someone, probably a real estate agent, getting estimates on the workshop property. He was planning my estate sale while I was still breathing. That's when I remembered something Susan had said during her final weeks. She'd asked me to bring her the jewelry box, the cherry one, with the secret compartment. Her hands were too weak to work the mechanism by then, so I opened it for her. "Victor," she'd whispered, "someday Nathan might lose his way. People do when money gets involved. If that happens, you remember what I'm telling you now?" She'd pulled out a small digital recorder I'd never seen before. "I made this for you, for when you need to remind him who he really is." I'd thought it was the morphine talking. But when I played the recording that night in August 2024, Linda's voice came through clear as church bells. "Nathan, my darling boy, if you're hearing this, it means you've lost your way. Your father is a good man who spent his life building things that last. Don't let greed destroy what we've built together. Remember what I taught you, that family is worth more than money, that love is the only inheritance that truly matters." She'd known. Somehow, even facing death, Linda had seen this coming and prepared for it, just like Susan had prepared me for everything else in life. That night, I called Nathan and set up dinner at the Harbor Club for September 15th. Private dining room, just the three of us. Me, Nathan, and Margaret. I didn't invite Caroline. This was the family business. "Dad, what's the occasion?" Nathan asked when I made the reservation. Time we talked about the future, about inheritance and family legacy. I could hear the excitement in his voice when he agreed. He thought Christmas had come early. The weeks leading up to dinner crawled by like molasses. Nathan called twice, fishing for details about what I wanted to discuss. Caroline started showing up more often, always with some excuse about helping Nathan understand the family business better. I played along, let them think they were getting somewhere. Margaret came by one afternoon while Nathan was at work. She looked tired, older than her 29 years. "Mr. Pierce," she said, sitting in my kitchen while I made coffee. "Is Nathan okay? He's been different lately. Distracted. Sometimes I catch him looking at me like he's calculating something." I wanted to tell her everything right then, warn her about what was coming, but I couldn't risk Nathan finding out before the dinner. "Marriage goes through phases," I said instead. "Sometimes people get focused on the future and forget about the present." She nodded, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Margaret was a good woman. She didn't deserve what was coming, but she needed to know the truth about the man she'd married. The night of September 15th arrived with clear skies and a cool breeze off Charleston Harbor. I dressed carefully, the navy suit Susan had bought me for. Our 30th anniversary. Carried with me a leather bag containing the cherry jewelry box, the one with Susan's final recording hidden in its secret compartment. Nathan was already there when I arrived, looking sharp in his business casual uniform. Margaret sat beside him, quiet and nervous. She'd always been good to me, treated me with respect, even after Nathan started turning cold. Tonight she wore a simple black dress and kept glancing between Nathan and me, like she sensed something was wrong. We ordered dinner, made small talk. Nathan kept steering the conversation toward my estate planning, my retirement timeline, my thoughts on simplifying my life. All code words for when I'd die and make his life easier. "You know, Dad," Nathan said, cutting into his steak, "Margaret and I have been talking about the future, about maybe starting a family soon." He glanced at his wife, who looked surprised by this news. "We'd want our kids to know their grandfather, of course, but we'd also want to make sure they're provided for." Margaret set down her fork. "Nathan, we haven't discussed children yet." "We will," he said, not looking at her. "The point is, Dad, it's important to have plans in place. Make sure the family legacy continues properly. Family legacy. Like I was already dead and buried." Halfway through the main course, I reached into my bag. Before we discussed the future, I said, "I want to give you both something, a piece of your mother's legacy." I placed the jewelry box on the table between us, hand-carved cherry wood, smooth as silk after 40 years of Linda's touch. Nathan had admired it countless times as a child, watching his mother open it to put on her earrings for church. "That's beautiful, Dad," Margaret said softly. She'd always appreciated my work, understood the hours that went into each piece. "Open it," I told Nathan. "There's something inside your mother wanted you to hear." Nathan's hands shook slightly as he pressed the two corners. The hidden panel slid, open with a soft click, revealing the small recording device Linda had left me 12 years ago. He looked confused until I pressed play. Susan's voice filled the private dining room, weak but clear. The voice I'd heard every morning for 35 years. The voice that had guided Nathan through his childhood. The voice he'd inherited his kindness from before Caroline poisoned it. Nathan, my darling boy, if you're hearing this, it means you've lost your way. Your father is a good man who spent his life building things that last. Don't let greed destroy what we've built together. Nathan went pale, but the recording wasn't finished. Remember what I taught you. That family is worth more than money. That love is the only inheritance that truly matters. I hope you find your way back to the boy I raised, the son who used to help your father in the workshop because he loved creating beautiful things. The recording paused, and I could see Nathan's eyes filling with tears. For a moment I thought, maybe that was enough. Maybe hearing his mother's voice would be the wake-up call he needed. Then my own voice came through the speaker, reading from my notebook. January 15th, 2023. Nathan and Caroline discussed my death timeline over Sunday dinner. Quote, I give it 2 years, maybe 3 if he's stubborn. Nathan tried to stand, but I kept the recording going. August 20th, 2023. Overheard Nathan telling Caroline, once Dad's gone, we sell everything and move to Seattle. The old man's workshop is worth a fortune, but he's too stubborn to see it. Margaret gasped, her hand covering her mouth. She stared at her husband like he was a stranger. March 10th, 2024. Nathan called 3 real estate agents for property assessments while I was supposedly at my doctor's appointment. The final recording played, Nathan and Caroline's Thanksgiving conversation, crystal clear through the dining room speakers. Every word about my death, every calculation about inheritance, every cold laugh at my expense. The property alone is worth $700,000, plus his retirement accounts, business assets. We're looking at close to $1.7 million total. Once the old man kicks the bucket, we're set for life. How can you be so sure about the timeline? Heavy lifting, chemical exposure in that basement workshop, stress of running the business alone at his age. Nature will take its course. We just have to be patient. When the recording ended, the silence was deafening. Other diners in the restaurant continued their conversations, oblivious to the family destruction happening in our private room. Nathan finally found his voice. Dad, I can explain. We weren't serious. It was just talk. Margaret stood up so fast her chair fell over. She looked at Nathan with pure disgust, like she was seeing him for the first time. Just talk? Her voice was barely controlled. You were planning your father's death like a business deal, calculating his life expectancy like he was livestock. She turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Mr. Pierce, I had no idea. I swear to you, I never knew about any of this. I know you didn't, sweetheart. That's why the trust fund I'm setting up is in your name, not his. Nathan's face went from pale to red. What trust fund? I pulled out the legal documents Benjamin Crawford had prepared. Your inheritance, son. $1.7 million total, $700,000 property, $400,000 retirement savings, $350,000 business assets, $250,000 life insurance. But it comes with conditions now. You can't touch a penny for 5 years, and only if you can demonstrate the character your mother tried to teach you. I stood up, gathered my papers. The workshop, the house, the business, all of it goes into a trust managed by Benjamin Crawford. You want your inheritance? You'll work for it. 2 years in the workshop, learning the trade properly, showing me you understand that some things are worth more than money. Nathan tried to argue, tried to explain, tried to make excuses. But Margaret had heard enough. She walked out of the restaurant without looking back, her heels clicking on the marble floor like a countdown timer. Margaret, wait! Nathan called after her, but she was already gone. I picked up the jewelry box, closed the secret compartment, and placed it back in my bag. Your mother believed in second chances, I told Nathan. So do I, but you'll earn this one the hard way. That was a year ago. Nathan comes to the workshop twice a week now, learning to work with his hands again, slowly remembering the lessons Linda and I tried to teach him about patience, craftsmanship, and family loyalty. Caroline disappeared faster than morning mist when she realized the money wasn't coming. Last I heard, she'd moved to Atlanta, found herself another ambitious young man with family money to exploit. Nathan tried calling her for weeks after the dinner, but her phone went straight to voicemail. Turned out her love was as conditional as her ethics. Margaret filed for divorce the next week. Said she couldn't stay married to a man who'd wish death on his own father, who'd calculate inheritance while carving Thanksgiving turkey. She kept her maiden name, Palmer, and moved into a small apartment downtown near the hospital where she works. The legal proceedings were swift and clean. Margaret didn't want anything from Nathan except her freedom. She comes by the workshop sometimes on Sunday afternoons, brings me sweet tea, and sits while I work. We don't talk much about Nathan, but I can see the relief in her eyes. She's sleeping better now, she tells me, no longer wondering what calculations are running through her husband's head. "You saved me, Mr. Pierce," she said one afternoon, while I was restoring an antique rocking chair. I was starting to think I was losing my mind. The way Nathan would look at me sometimes, like he was figuring out how I fit into some equation I couldn't see. I set down my sandpaper. "You're a good woman, Margaret. Nathan's loss is some lucky man's gain someday." She smiled, the first real smile I'd seen from her in months. "Maybe. Right now I'm just enjoying being myself again." Nathan's first day back in the workshop was awkward as hell. He stood in the doorway like he was entering a crime scene, which, in a way, I suppose he was. The place where he'd plotted against his old man for 3 years. "Where do you want me to start?" he asked, hands shoved deep in his pockets. "Right here," I said, handing him a piece of sandpaper and pointing to a rough cedar chest. "Sand with the grain, not against it. Take your time. We've got 2 years to get this right." The first few months were painful. Nathan worked in silence, resentment radiating off him like heat from a forge. He'd sand a piece, then step back and stare at it like he couldn't understand why anyone would waste time making something beautiful when you could buy mass-produced furniture for half the price. But slowly, something started to change. Maybe it was the rhythm of the work, the satisfaction of seeing rough wood transform under patient hands. Maybe it was being surrounded by pieces Linda and I had crafted together, memories soaked into every grain and joint. Or maybe it was just the simple fact that he had nowhere else to go. "I remember helping you make this," Nathan said one Tuesday afternoon, running his hand along a hope chest I'd built when he was 12. "You let me carve my initials in the bottom." "Still there," I said, not looking up from the table leg I was turning on the lathe. "Right next to your mother's." He was quiet for a long time after that. When he finally spoke, his voice was different, softer. "Dad, I need to tell you something." I shut off the lathe, gave him my full attention. "I was angry," he said, not meeting my eyes. "After Mom died, I was angry at everything, at cancer, at God, at you for handling it better than me. Caroline fed into that anger, made me feel like the world owed me something." He picked up a chisel, tested its edge against his thumb. "I convinced myself you were holding me back, keeping me tied to an old-fashioned business when I could be making real money in tech. I told myself you'd be happier retired anyway. And now?" Nathan looked around the workshop, at the tools hung in their proper places, at the half-finished projects waiting for skilled hands to complete them. "Now I see what I almost threw away. This isn't just a business, is it? It's a legacy. Everything in here has a story, a purpose. When you build something to last, you're putting a piece of yourself into the world that'll outlive you." I nodded. "Your mother understood that. Took me years to teach her the technical stuff, but she got the heart of it right from the start. We worked in comfortable silence for a while. Nathan had good hands when he focused, steady and sure. He'd inherited that from Linda, along with her stubborn streak and her eye for detail. "Do you think she'd be proud?" he asked, holding up a drawer pull he'd been shaping. "Mom, if she could see me now." I thought about Linda's recording, about the faith she'd shown in leaving it for me to use when the time was right. She always believed in second chances, said everyone deserves the opportunity to become who they're supposed to be. Nathan smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him since he was a teenager. "I've got 4 more years to prove I'm worth that second chance." "We'll see," I said, but inside, I was already seeing it. The boy Linda had raised was still in there, just buried under years of bad choices and worse influences. These days, the workshop feels different, still quiet after hours, but it's a peaceful quiet now. Nathan's learning not just how to work wood, but how to be patient with it, how to respect the grain and work with it instead of forcing it to do what you want. My name is Victor Pierce. I'm 66 years old. I make furniture that lasts, and I'm teaching my son that. Some things, family, legacy, honor, are worth more than all the money in Charleston. Linda would be proud of that lesson, I think, even if it took longer to sink in than we hoped. The workshop is quiet now. Nathan's upstairs, probably reading or watching television, and I'm down here surrounded by 40 years of craftsmanship, wondering if patience and love are enough to rebuild what greed tried to destroy. Time will tell, but in a business built on patience, I've got plenty of both. The inheritance still waits, protected by lawyers and conditions, ready for the day Nathan proves he understands what really matters. The jewelry box sits on my workbench, Linda's voice safe inside its secret compartment, ready to remind us both of the love that built this family in the first place. Some breaks take time to heal properly, but with care and patience, even the deepest cracks can be filled with something stronger than what was there before. And that's a lesson worth passing down. Sometimes the greatest inheritance you can leave your children isn't money. It's teaching them the difference between earning something and expecting it. A father's job isn't to make life easy for his kids, but to make sure they're strong enough to handle life when it gets hard.